How's it going, everybody? I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Before I begin, I want to say thank you so much to each and every single one of you for helping to make this channel what it is. We are this close to crossing the 1,200 subscriber mark. In order to cross that threshold, I need your help. If you like what you see and you enjoy the content, and if you haven't done so already, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button, comment in the comments section below, and hit the bell to receive notifications. I do have an eBay store called the Carolina Collector 001. If you're interested in loose sports cards and various other items, check out my eBay store. The link is in the description box below. Thank you so much for everybody who has done so. I believe I have 3 orders to process and get out in the mailbox. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 2:45 a.m.
So if you can't tell, I'm filming this late at night because yesterday was a very glorious day. It was just so beautiful. I really didn't want to be home yesterday. I did whatever I had to do at home. I got my rent paid, got the bills paid, did some food shopping. Except for putting gas in my car, I've done everything I had to do. And I really can't do much more listing on eBay because I maxed out all 250 slots for the month of August. And until September rolls around, I'm kind of stuck, and I'm not paying eBay $1 per listing just to put more cards up there. They get enough out of us for eBay fees and all that stuff, so no thank you. So I was hanging out with one of my neighbors yesterday. If you're watching, you know who you are. Oh my God, I was poo-poo faced. I was really shit faced. But I think I earned my right to get shit faced. You know, after everything that's happened, sometimes you kind of have to just spread your wings and let loose a little bit. So I'm here tanking down. I mean, it's a little late at night or early in the morning, depending on your point of view. You know, one of my sugar-free Red Bulls here, just to kind of square me up, along with some aspirin and vitamin C, just to snap me back in shape. And I'll probably, you know, go back to bed in like another hour or two. I'll go through YouTube watching my usual stuff. But anyway, I'm blabbing on here. I wanted to talk about this because I saw a video recently here on YouTube. I forgot what the content creator's name is. Just like in a sports card hobby, there's a little bit of a civil war going on in the Transformers sphere when it comes to Gen Zers or modern day hobbyists, especially young people that grew up with the Michael Bay Transformers, which to me is just a bunch of shit thrown up on a screen. I don't like the Bayverse. I can't stand stuff like that. I can't stand when everything is like this. You know what I mean? I grew up in the 80s as a kid with G1 Transformers, and I do have some examples here, or more modern examples of G1 Transformers that I'm going to go over. For example, I have the Walmart exclusive Color Correct Optimus Prime, which I believe I reviewed here on the channel. It's very accurate as far as the colors are concerned to what we see up on the screen as far as the 80s cartoon is concerned. And then we can go to Missing Link Optimus Prime, and I believe this is the anime it's the anime version. I do have the other version up there on my shelf. I also have New Year Convoy 2002 that's been upgraded. And of course, I've showed this guy off many a time, my Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime. This thing is just, let me tell you, out of all the Primes I've got, he is definitely the end-all, be-all Primes from G1 right there. And I kind of have to mention this dude, Tankatron. He is Tankatron. I mean, he looks like Megatron, feels like Megatron, but he is not G1 because he is a tank. To me, this is nothing more than a Megatron from Devastation, as far as I'm concerned. Because G1 Megatron was a Walther P-38. And I have the 16 special version of him right here. And that's basically the core of the argument. Now, I'm wearing a Cleveland Indians jersey for a reason with woohoo on my hat because I want to make it a point that, you know, as a symptom of time, things eventually do change. I mean, the changes are kind of stupid, just like with this thing here. You know, this is my Ricky Vaughn jersey. I actually have the entire uniform that I wear for Halloween. Maybe I'll do a video about my Rick Vaughn costume that I put together and assembled. But, you know, unfortunately, this is more politically motivated than anything. However, with that being said, over time, things do change, you know. However, you always have to respect where things come from. History. And G1 Transformers are part of a toy history that is, in my opinion, second to none. And there's something quaint about these blocky action figures. You know, they don't have a lot of articulation, but the engineering at that time in the 80s when they came over here from Japan, from Takara, as Diaclone and all that stuff. I mean, these toys were just amazing. Obviously, now with the goofy politics, we already know about 16 Special Megatron here, or any other version of G1 Megatron. I'm not going to get into it. I think it's stupid, especially if I'm an adult. I should have the right to choose what I want for myself as far as toy collecting is concerned. Excuse me. But unfortunately, and a lot of people have been saying it, unless Takara Tomy actually releases a true G1 version of this Megatron, or some upgrader out there, is able to transform this into a Walther P-38, I highly doubt we're ever going to see a G1 Megatron again. But, there's this little civil war that G1ers are trying to own the space and own the hobby, and that's simply not true. I think G1ers are tired of watching our franchise that we grew up with turn into, politically correct, make-believe robots. I mean, from my point of view, they're toys, it's a cartoon, they're robots, they're not real. So you really shouldn't invest too much of your emotions into this. However, when you expose these ideas to our children with pronouns, robots are pronouns. I mean, give me a break now. Let's just stop right there and draw the line in the sand. It's ridiculous. And to have like these murder robots up until, well, I do have to reference the Transformers, the movie from 1986, where Optimus Prime was, basically killed off. And you saw a lot of death in that movie. As a kid, it was quite shocking, and parents were pissed off, and kids like me were like, oh my God, they killed Optimus Prime. You know what I mean? They actually went back into G.I. Joe, the movie. I think it was Duke that was supposed to be killed off, but instead they put him in a coma because of the backlash of Optimus Prime dying. So you didn't see that anymore. I mean, yeah, you had a lot of, laser fights throughout the 4 seasons of the original Transformers G1 cartoon, but up until that point, I mean, you really didn't see or hear of death in our cartoons. It was something that was shocking, but now everything has to be violent. And that's where a lot of us G1ers have a problem with, because it's just a bunch of shit thrown up on the screen. It's this thing. It's and like I tried watching the Bayverse Transformers. I felt like I was going to vomit. I felt like I was on a roller coaster or something like that, or one of them slingshots that launches you up in the air. It's just too much to watch. And they've turned these robots, these innocent robots, into murder bots. Again, I do have to mention that we did experience this, in some degree with the 86 movie, but these days it's just mindless, pointless CG crap. And they've taken our franchise and basically, like, I watched Transformers Beast, whatever it was called, with the Beast Wars guys in it. I was just like, what is happening here? Like, Transformers Prime was cool. I have watched Headmasters. I've watched Victory. I've watched Zone. I know I'm forgetting one here. I have watched Beast Wars 2 or Beast Wars 2nd, Beast Wars Neo. So you have to go into this with a bit of knowledge, and actually sit down and grind through the original cartoons, especially after the Japanese market took over after season 4 here. Actually, they completely omitted season 4 over in Japan. I think it was here we had the Target Masters and the Headmasters, where they introduced Zarak and all that stuff. But they did pick it up in Japan, and it continued on. So you also have to, reference that as well. But, you have to, these young people, it's not that G1ers are trying to own the hobby. It's that these new young people that are into the hobby and into collecting don't respect where it came from. That's like in a sneaker, I hate using that word, community. People that are into sneakers. I try not using that C word, because community implies communism, which also implies socialism and all that kind of stuff, which I firmly do not agree with and believe in. But in that sphere, I guess is a more accurate term. If it wasn't for guys my age, you wouldn't have Jordans today. In other words, there's no respect for where things come from. It's like that in the sports card hobby as well, like with vintage, for example. I've never handled 1950s cards until my father passed away. And now I have a stack of vintage cards in my hand, and there's nothing like vintage. I never appreciated it until my father passed away, and I held his Hank Aaron in my hand, and his Yogi Berra, and the various other cards that he had. There's just a certain charm and simplicity to them. It's the same thing like with the G1 Transformers. I mean, if you look at New Year Convoy here, And you look at Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, look at how far we've come with the engineering. But it always has its starting point. And this isn't even the beginning. I mean, again, this is a 2002 reissue. You have to go all the way back to Diaclone, when he was known as Convoy, for example. Or, the Man from U.N.C.L.E., which is where our G1 Megatron came from. And now look how far we've come, unfortunately. Again, yes, I get the gun laws. I don't need it explained to me, blah, 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 blah. He is a good representation of G1, but he's not my G1. And that's the problem, is that, there's no middle ground in any of it. I personally don't like the new Transformers. I mean, I like these Transformers when they re-engineer G1, like with Missing Link here. I thought this was amazing. I got Bumblebee and Cliffjumper up there. I have the toy accurate version of Missing Link Optimus Prime. I did order for what's his name? Sunstreaker. I have Lio Convoy. That's supposed to be coming soon. I have no idea when Takara is going to release that. It's not part of this line. That's part of Beast Wars 2nd. And I also ordered for Arcee. Whenever she comes out as a Missing Link, I got the cartoon accurate version on order. I can't wait to get my hands on that, because I've never owned an Arcee before. But, you take a look at them toys and you see how they re-engineer G1. I mean, for a guy like myself, I love to see things like this, how they take, or how they're going about taking toys that I grew up with that were essentially bricks and, doing like all this kind of cool stuff. You couldn't do this with a G1 Prime. Look at that. That's amazing. And I don't think that the younger generation of G1 Transformers really, or I should say the younger generation of Transformers collectors, to be more specific, really appreciate where their collections are coming from. And it's not that G1ers are trying to own the hobby or own the collecting sphere. It's just, give the old school a little bit more respect. Because again, it's like this TJ Omega, whatever his name is, the long hair Floridian who's, woke is broke, you know what I mean? And, talks about people with pronouns and all that kind of crazy stuff, man. And that's the people that are coming into these spaces and turning our toys gay, which I think is stupid, ridiculous, and nonsensical. All right, Transformers G1 wasn't gay. However, looking at it from today's point of view and inclusion, I mean, listen, we got female robots, I got Black Arachnia up there, you know what I mean, and a couple other female Transformers, as a matter of fact. I have no problem with female robots at all, period. But it gets to a point where, like, all right, now you're trying to get political with kids' toys, which I completely disagree with. That's one of the major problems between the two fan bases, is that keep the politics out of it, man. When I heard that they were using pronouns in Transformers recently, yikes. I mean, what do we have to have? Do we have to have fat, black, crippled, guilty, white, liberal, I guess, Cyclops robots now, or whatever the fuck, that has a club foot and a head shaped like Gumby? I mean, it's out of control. Leave the politics out of it. Leave all that crap out of it. Yeah, with the new Optimus Primes that came out during the Bayverse, where he was basically a Mack truck. I mean, listen, you can change these action figures into anything you want. And I talked about this with my other Megatrons, for example, like Transformers Prime Megs. In that universe, as a Cybertronian jet, perfectly fine. As a Mack truck, Optimus, perfect in that universe, because it's not G1. Even though some of the voice actors are G1, that is not G1. Just like what happened with War for Cybertron, that was not G1. They look G1, but they are not G1. This is not G1. He's a tank, and until they make a Walther P-38, I will never consider him G1. You got to get real with this franchise, folks. And G1ers take a look at all this stuff, man. And I never had Optimus Prime as a kid. I did have other Transformers as a kid, but I look at this now as an adult. It's like, wow, look at how far these toys have come. And that's why, guys my age and probably even older collect these, because it harkens back to our childhood. We're not sitting there, playing in the grass going, oh, I'm Optimus Prime, pew, 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 and having wars out in the grass, you know what I mean? Or anything like that. They're novelties for a guy like myself. It takes you out of reality for a little bit. But when you start turning them into pronoun murder bots, I'm like, all right, I'm tapping out. I'm done with all of this. And that's my biggest problem with this little civil war that goes on between the two fan bases. It's that there's no real respect for where these characters come from and what they are. Again, unfortunately, I kind of, the more I handle this guy, the more I'm beginning to accept him, because he's a damn fine looking Megatron. He looks very G1. He looks like he hopped right off the screen, and man, look at that, no kibble on his back. That's amazing how they did that. But I still would like to see him being a Walther P-38. But of course, I don't need it rubbed in my face. I already know. I have it right here. You know what I mean? So it's just, I feel that the new generation of Transformers fans really doesn't have a clue as to the love and respect that we have for these characters. And to take these beloved characters and try to turn them into something that they're not, unless it's in a different universe, which I have no problem with. You got Transformers Prime, you got War for Cybertron, you got all these other, universes of, the Transformers franchise. That's perfectly fine in those universes. But when it comes to G1, they are the foundation of the entire toy sphere and hobby sphere and collector sphere. And of course we're going to protect this stuff because we grew up with this, man. And now it's being perverted into something else for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm surprised they didn't turn him into a steel dildo at this point for the it, what, who pronoun weirdos, that are out there. It's ridiculous. What are you going to do? Turn Megatron into a fat black bull ring in the nose, rainbow-haired, guilty white liberal with a dog that wears shower curtains because they're too cheap to buy real clothing and stuff like that? You ever see what they look like? They're the ones that are lighting cars on fire in Portland and Seattle and in my former home in New York, the anti-Semites. And that's why G1ers protect this hobby, man. We don't want it tainted with this stuff. Yeah, you want to upgrade them to a tank because of the goofy laws, fine. I understand all that. In the different universes, if in Transformers Prime, you want to make Optimus Prime into a Mack truck in that universe, fine, perfect, got it, understood. But don't come at me, or come at G1 fans, saying that we're trying to own and control a hobby. I don't think we're trying to own and control the collector's sphere or the hobby in and of itself. We're just protecting we're protecting the origin of these figures, what they represent, and where the whole thing started from. Look at what Star Wars has turned into. Lesbian witches. And you see them all doing the guy from World War II doing the one arm up thing that, they don't bend at the elbow sort of thing. I actually posted a meme of it on my community page that now it's like a political rally for the guy from World War II that did really awful things to people. You know what I mean? Where they're all putting their arms out like they're doing the big smiles. It's frightening what's happened in the Star Wars, sphere. And especially now I'm an example of it, because I stood up for myself. I got thrown under the bus by these freak shows, especially after spending thousands of dollars, not just on my costume, but Nerf guns, backdrops, coins, patches, darts for those Nerf guns, easels to put signs up, chairs, tables. I used to do running for the 501st, setting up events and stuff like that. And look what I got in return: a bunch of it, what, who pronoun, guilty white liberal, black trans, something or others, who can't tell what, they don't know what's between their legs. They can't figure it out. Obviously, I'm a dangler, so I know exactly what I am. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous and it's stupid. And this is what's been injected into the Transformers sphere, like what's been injected into the Star Wars sphere, and what they're always trying to inject into these franchises. It's ridiculous. Look at with Jack Black and He-Man. Come on now. Oh, not Jack Black, whatever the fuck his name was. I don't know and I don't care. But anyway, I think you all get the point with all of this. We're not trying to police the hobby. It's just we need to protect this franchise, man, from it being polluted by all this crap. We don't need murder bots, and we don't need homosexual, gay, lesbian, Transformers or pronouns. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. Hey, man, if we're going to graduate to CG like what Michael Bay did, so be it. I don't like it personally because I think it's just all of this. But, things do change. obviously now, we're in 2025. We're about to enter 2026 in a couple months from now. Obviously we don't have horse-drawn buggies unless you're in New York City doing the rounds around Central Park in horse-drawn buggies, or if you're a farmer or something like that, or if you're Amish. That's different. But eventually things change, franchises change, things will get upgraded and updated and all that sort of thing for the times. Again, I understand why Megatron is a tank. I don't need it to be explained to me. I'm well aware of why they did that. But, I don't want to see the franchise or any other franchise being perverted into what it is. I'm literally wearing an example of it on my shirt and on my head. The Cleveland Guardians? Really? It's ridiculous. It's stupid. Keep your politics away from these franchises. That's my biggest concern as a G1 fan. We don't want to see that stuff. We didn't have that as a kid. We don't want it now. I understand that time has moved on. It's not 1986 anymore. I get all that. I'm a 48-year-old grown man. To me, these are just toys. That's what they are. They're toys. And I'm a grown-ass man. Like I said, I paid my rent, I paid the electric bill, I paid my car insurance, paid off my cell phone bill, I did some food shopping, and then I got myself poo-poo faced over at the pool today, with one of my neighbors. Thank God I got home in one piece. But, the simple fact of the matter is that, I'm not really picking on anybody here. I'm trying not to pick on anybody here. But, keep this stuff away from these toys and these franchises. Because modern day children being exposed to this kind of crap, I think it's unethical, immoral, and wrong. The day I see a bull ring septum nose wearing Optimus Prime with a rainbow helmet, and a dildo for a blaster, I'm out, man. All of this stuff is going to get trashed. I'll break out my Sawzall and cut them all in half and throw them right in a dumpster if that happens. It's bad enough already. We've already seen some fuckery, with these Transformers cartoons or pronouns and stuff like that. Keep it away from the kids. All right? Everybody wants to hide behind the kids. The kids are an excuse. Oh, it's the children. It's the children. It's just like this thing. The Cleveland Indians. They will always be the Indians to me. And baseball fans or sports fans. I'll never accept the fact that they are known as the Guardians. I don't care what you say. And I'm glad a certain pumpkin, the great pumpkin in the White House, is trying to reverse all that. God bless you, Kansas City Chiefs and Atlanta Braves. Leave well enough alone. Yeah, sometimes you have to move on. Technology, does progress. The times do change. We're not walking around like what we used to do in the 1800s. Nobody wears top hats and fedoras anymore unless you really want to get fancy these days. Women don't wear those big ass gowns and skirts like they used to back in the 1800s holding a little umbrella. Times change. That's how it is. You get with the times, what have you. But some of this other stuff, man, it's just got to go. Keep it simple, stupid, and leave all this other crap out of it. I love the Transformers. I loved it as a kid, and I love them now. Every so often, I'll watch a couple episodes of whatever series. It could be Beast Wars 2nd, Beast Wars Neo, G1 Transformers, Transformers Prime, even Armada. Sometimes I'll dive into, but unfortunately, this new stuff that's coming out, it's not for me, man. Especially what the things that they're trying to put in there. Not saying that every Optimus Prime has to be a flat nose or a snub nose or a flat nose truck, but this other stuff needs to stay away. That's my whole gripe with all of this. After that, have at it, man. You can't have a snub nose truck forever. I mean, yes, this is the foundation of where the Transformers franchise comes from, but keep it simple. Keep all that other crap out of it. And that's my gripe with the fans today, especially the young people. Keep the politics out of it. That's my biggest problem. At least that's my opinion. I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Take care, everybody.